Hey there, and welcome back to AI Splainer. Today, we're diving into a situation that's unfolding right now and could change everything in the Middle East. After a reported US-Israeli strike takes out Iran's supreme leader, the nation is just plunged into chaos. The Islamic Republic is teetering on the brink, facing its biggest crisis in decades. And out of all that turmoil, one huge question is on everyone's mind. Who on earth is going to step up and lead a new Iran?
Welcome back to AI Explainer, where we, simplify complex ideas using AI. And this one is definitely complex. So for the first time in almost 50 years, there's this massive power vacuum in Tehran. The regime is just reeling, its top leader is gone, and you've got people erupting in the streets. And into this void steps a name from Iran's past, a name that's sparking a ton of hope for some, but also some really deep skepticism for others. So yeah, let's dive in and unpack what is going on. Okay, so to really get what's happening, we've got to do a super quick rewind. Back in 1979, the Shah is overthrown in the Islamic Revolution. You fast forward to more recent years, and you've got these massive nationwide anti-regime protests just shaking the country to its core. And then, bam! In 2026, these stunning US-Israeli strikes take out the supreme leader himself, and just like that, Iran is at a historic tipping point. So here's the game plan for today. We're going to start with this huge leadership vacuum in Iran. Then we'll look at the guy who's stepping up with a proposition, a man named Reza Pahlavi. After that, we'll dig into why Iran seems so divided on him. And finally, we'll zoom out and look at the massive global stakes, why the whole world is watching this so closely. All right, first up, that leadership vacuum. With the supreme leader suddenly gone, the entire clerical establishment is just in complete disarray. And you get these incredible reports flooding out of Tehran, people literally celebrating in the streets, cheering, whistling. So you have to understand, this isn't just some political crisis. For a lot of people, this feels like a genuine moment of liberation. And you really can't overstate how serious this is. This quote from analysts at Iran International, it just hits the nail on the head. They're saying the Islamic Republic may be at its most vulnerable point in its nearly 50-year existence. Think about that. Almost 50 years, and this is the moment it could all come crashing down. Which brings us back to that massive question, what, or maybe who, comes next? And that leads us right to our next section, the Prince's Proposition. Because into this chaos steps one person in particular, Reza Pahlavi. He's really emerged as the most prominent opposition figure out there, and he's positioning himself as the one person who can guide Iran away from this theocratic regime and towards something new. So, who is this guy exactly? Well, Reza Pahlavi is the eldest son of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the last Shah of Iran, who was kicked out during that 1979 revolution. And get this, he was only 18 years old at the time. He was actually in the US training to be a fighter pilot when it all went down. And he's been living in exile ever since. We're talking nearly 5 decades away from his home country. And look, he's not just showing up with a famous last name. He's got a plan. He's laid out these 4 core principles for what he calls a new Iran. First, he wants to preserve Iran's territorial integrity. Basically, keep the country in one piece. Second, and this is a huge one, he wants secularism, a real separation of mosque and state. Third, basic human rights for every single citizen. And fourth, popular sovereignty, letting the Iranian people themselves choose their own government in a free referendum. Now, this is absolutely crucial to his pitch. He says, and he's really insistent on this point, I'm not running for office, I'm not seeking a power or a title. He sees himself as a transitional figure. His whole thing is that he's not there to rule, but to be a bridge, to help get the country from where it is now to a new democratic system that the people themselves choose. Okay, so it all sounds pretty good on paper, right? A democratic, secular Iran? Well, this is where things get really, really complicated. Because Pahlavi is an incredibly polarizing figure. His name alone ignites this fierce debate, and it really splits Iranians into 3 camps: passionate supporters, deep skeptics, and people who are just flat out against him. Let's break down this split. On one side, you have his supporters. They see him as maybe the only person with enough name recognition to hold the country together and stop it from descending into total chaos. They point to these chants you hear in the streets, Javid Shah, which means long live the Shah, as sort of a street referendum. But then you have the opposition's view, and they are terrified of a return to his father's dictatorship. To them, he's just the son of a reviled dictator who has no legitimacy because he's been gone for almost half a century. They see him as a symbol of dependence on foreign powers, not a path to a free future.
And the roadblocks he faces are, well, they're huge. First, you have the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. This is the regime's powerful army, and there's a real chance they'll just try to grab power for themselves. Then there are other opposition groups who are deeply divided and don't necessarily want him in charge. His very strong pro-Israel stance is a huge point of criticism for many. And then there's the personal stuff, accusations that he's just a wealthy jet-setter, totally out of touch with what real Iranians are going through. All of this just feeds the skepticism about whether he can actually unite anyone.
And to give you a sense of just how sharp the criticism can get, listen to this. This is from John Bercow, the former Speaker of the UK's House of Commons. He was actually speaking in support of a rival opposition group, and he said Pahlavi's effort showed breathtaking presumption and arrogance. He went on to say he is a return to the past, not a way to the future. I mean, that really captures the intensity of the opposition he's up against.
Okay, so with all this internal drama going on, let's zoom out, because this isn't just about Iran. The outcome here has absolutely massive implications for the entire Middle East and, really, for the whole global balance of power. Every major player on the world stage is watching this, because they all have a stake in what happens next.
And when you look at the international players, the stances are pretty different. On one hand, you have Israel. They are by far his strongest backer. They see recognizing him as an operational necessity to finally end the existential threat they feel from Tehran. Then you have the United States, which is being much more cautious. Yeah, Trump's envoy met with Pahlavi, but there's been no official endorsement. In fact, there are reports that Trump himself is skeptical that a guy who's been gone for nearly 50 years could really command that much support inside Iran.
And this table right here, this is exactly why the world is watching so closely. A government led by Pahlavi wouldn't just be a change, it would be a complete 180-degree flip in foreign policy. Think about it. The relationship with Israel goes from existential enemy to a proposed alliance he calls the Cyrus Accords. The rivalry with Saudi Arabia, he wants to turn that into peace and partnership. For Europe, Iran could become a stable energy supplier, and instead of exporting revolution around the region, he wants Iran to be a pillar of stability. I mean, the geopolitical implications here are they're enormous.
So, it all comes down to this, doesn't it? Can a leader who has been in exile for nearly half a century, can he really be the bridge to a new Iran? Or is he just a symbol of a past that many Iranians fought to get rid of and have absolutely no desire to go back to? That's the core dilemma, and the answer is going to shape the future of not just Iran, but the entire region.
So what do you think? Is this a path to a new future or a return to the past? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. And hey, if you found this explainer helpful, please do us a huge favor and hit that like button, share it with someone who might be interested, and of course, subscribe to AI Explainer for more deep dives into complex topics. Thanks so much for watching.